Well, we have the very latest now out of New Zealand, where authorities are ruling out finding any survivors on a volcanic island that was hit by a deadly eruption. Now, you're looking at video taken by tourists as that eruption happened. At least 5 people are confirmed dead. An unknown number of people were stranded on the island, but authorities put that number in the double digits. New Zealand police now saying rescue helicopters and other aircraft have flown over the island and have spotted no signs of life. Police say that the volcano is still too unstable for ground crews to go onto the island itself.
Due to the current risk, emergency services are unable to access the island. The island is unstable. There are possibilities of further eruptions, but actually the physical environment is unsafe for us to return to the island.
Now, police say 23 people were taken off the island in the aftermath of the eruption. 5 in that group died. Authorities also saying others are hurt, some of them critically. The island is a popular spot for tourist groups, and a number of tourists had left the island when the eruption happened. We know at least one is a Canadian, and right now it is dark on the island, New Zealand being about 18 hours ahead. So we're talking about early morning Tuesday there. Police say the search for victims will be carried out by drone come first light. Well, take a look at this map now because it shows you where all this happened. White Island, about 50 kilometers off New Zealand's east coast. The island is about 2 kilometers wide and privately owned. Officials say that the eruption happened just after 2 o'clock in the afternoon, New Zealand time. The last eruption there was in 2016. But researchers warned earlier this month that volcanic activity was increasing. Well, let's bring in Laura McQuillan. She leads off our coverage this hour. Obviously, we've been tracking this through the early morning hours for viewers here in Canada. What is the latest at this point?
Well, we're hearing from police in New Zealand that they now believe anyone who could have survived this was already taken off the island. That 23 people were rescued earlier, 5 of them had died. But police were saying there could be as many as 50 people on the island at the time, which means 27 were stranded, up to 27, and unaccounted for. Now, they say that it's still too dangerous to try and get to the island at this point, but as you mentioned, they will be sending resources at first light. A Defence Force ship and drones will be heading there to see when it might be safe to look for any bodies that may be on the island. Police still working to establish exactly who and how many people were on the island, but no signs of life from those flyovers in the evening in New Zealand. Now, they also say that they're establishing a police disaster identification team on mainland New Zealand. They're really putting all resources into this, and Whakatane, which is where the city where they're coordinating this, the Prime Minister is now there. She's meeting with officials from the District Council there and also from government agencies who are coordinating all of that response. But that sad news coming through from police, they do not believe there are any survivors.
Horrific when you see the images and hear that analysis from police. What do we know about the tourists that were on the island?
What police have said is they believe there were both New Zealanders and foreign tourists on the island. There's some confirmation out of New Zealand that at least one local man from Whakatane on the mainland did die in this, but the identities of the others not confirmed at this point. Making things a little harder is that there were a number of tourists from a cruise ship called the Ovation of the Seas who were on the island at the time. We've just received a statement from Royal Caribbean New Zealand, which runs that ship. They say that the ship is going to remain in port, that they're devastated by what has happened because certainly some of their passengers caught up in this. They say they're working with local authorities, they're moving medical resources and counselling for their staff and for the passengers. They're also going to be bringing in extra staff from New Zealand and Australia to help with this. The Department of Conservation in New Zealand, which manages the island, says it did not have any staff there at that point in time. So we're seeing these videos on social media, Michael, of these people who made a very lucky escape, minutes before. One video, one man who posted said he'd been at the crater rim 20 minutes before the eruption and it just looked normal. You see the smoke and the steam coming out of the ground, but it's an active volcano, so that's pretty standard. But terrifying stuff for everyone who experienced something like that, and of course very tragic, with police now saying potentially upwards of 20 people could have died in this.
Okay, well, this remains a developing story in New Zealand, so we're tracking it for people here at home. So we will talk again, Laura, but for now, thank you.
You're welcome.
Now, let's stay on the story for a moment, because we also have for you another eyewitness account of the eruption from a person by the name of Tristan Webb. Now, Tristan is the director with a skydiving company, and he tells CBC News that he and his group has just jumped out of their plane when they saw the eruption.
And today, when we exited the aircraft, pretty much immediately we could see the plume almost beginning to envelop the entire island. So our free fall was last for about 40-45 seconds, and in that time it went from a relatively small plume of smoke covering a fair amount of the island to, you know, a huge area that was pretty much enveloping the island, I'd say. There was no signs at all today that the steady stream of smoke that we constantly see off the island was any more than, or any less than what it normally would be. But it was just very rapid in terms of the way it expanded.
And we'll have more on this story throughout the morning right here on CBC News Network, so do stay with us for every development in this breaking story.